All right, so today we are talking about kindness. We're talking about chesed. And we call this Olam Chesed Yibana. And that is a quote from our sages, which usually translates as build a world of kindness. Build a world of kindness. But we're giving another spin on it. And that is, not only are we going to build a world of kindness, but we want to build our world with kindness, through kindness. We're going to use our kindness as a tool to actually bring completion to the world that we live in. The world is incomplete. Hashem asks us, God says to us, I want you to be partners with me in bringing justice and in bringing completion to the world. And Hashem gives us a lot of good that we have and a lot of blessing. And he says, I want you to share that with my people. I want you to be your brother's keeper. I want you to help the rest of the Jewish nation through the blessing that I give you. There's a Talmud that talks about a great question. What happens if somebody asks you, this is one of the rabbis said, Rabbi Meir, what do you say if somebody comes to you and says, if your God so much loves the poor, why doesn't he feed them? That would be a good question. Why doesn't he feed them? If he loves the poor, why doesn't he take care of them? And the answer, says Reb Meir, is to give us the opportunity to do a mitzvah and bring ourselves to a good place, to bring ourselves reward, to bring ourselves a good space in the world to come. That is why Hashem says, okay, here's the system. The poor need food and different people have different needs, and I want you and you and you to help make that happen. And I'm going to give you the blessing, and you're going to earn the mitzvah through giving. That same Talmud takes it even a step further and says, we know that the blessing that you will have in any given year is determined at the first of the year, Rosh Hashanah. But not only is the amount of food and income and livelihood that you have determined on Rosh Hashanah, also the losses that you will have are determined on Rosh Hashanah. How much money are you going to lose? And he says, if one is zoche, if you merit, then that loss is going to be money well spent by you. That's going to be money that you give to the poor. You have a decree that, I don't know, $5,000 is going to come out of your bank account. If you are wise, you will use the opportunity to spend the money well on charity and on kindness, and that will be written off as your loss. So we can have the opportunity to take initiative and go ahead and give the poor people what we have. And the truth is that everything Hashem gives us in our world, every single thing is there for us to use as a tool for a mitzvah, as a tool to come closer to Hashem. So that includes everything that we own, which is not just about money or possessions. It's way more than that. And I heard this such a powerful perspective on this pasuk. It says in the Torah, Im kesef tilva es ami es ha'ani imach. If you will lend money to my people, to the poor amongst you, there's a mitzvah of the Torah, do not act as a creditor and do not take interest from them. There's a mitzvah to give a loan to a Jew who needs a loan, and there's a mitzvah, do not charge interest. And, by the way, don't act as a creditor. Calling, texting, email, I need my money back, when am I getting those payments? Not only that, we're taught that if you see somebody who owes you money, you should cross the street and not even walk by them, so as not to give them that anguish as like, oh no, maybe he's coming to demand the money back. That's how sensitive we're instructed to treat our brothers. But here's a new approach on that. Just take these words, es ha'ani imach, and maybe instead of reading it, the poor amongst you, we can read it differently in Hebrew. Es ha'ani, that of the poor persons, imach, is with you. Hashem is telling you that you have things by you that really belong to other people. They're really intended for other people. Hashem gave them to you to share. So what do you have in your life that really belongs to somebody else? Meaning to say, it is given to you for you to make the right choice to share with someone else. Okay, it sounds like, when I first heard this idea, like it sounds like almost like aggressive, like you have money that belongs to someone else. Get it out of your bank account and give it to them. But it's not like that. It's that Hashem gives you things to use as tools to come closer to Hashem, to do mitzvahs. So what do you have in your possessions, this is something we should all think about, which perhaps was given by Hashem for the purpose of you sharing it with something else. Now, what is that? What is that? Is that money? Because the knee-jerk reaction is, who's got money? Who's got money? Some people are blessed to truly feel like they have extra money sitting in their bank account. God bless you. And you know that that's to be shared. But for probably most of us, we don't feel that there's extra money sitting around our bank account. Could I really afford to give money? So one part of the answer is hopefully yes. Hopefully we can push ourselves to give charity, to do kindness, to do mitzvahs with our money, to give meiser, 10% of our income to the poor, or to different forms of kindness and chesed. But even without that, we could be way more creative in that, because chesed is different than tzedakah. Tzedakah might involve giving charity, that's usually giving money. But chesed is kindness. We're building the world with kindness. It's one of the three things that the world stands on. Our sages teach us, al shlosha dvarim ha'olam omed, on three things the world is standing on, three pillars. Torah, avoda, and gemilas chasadim. Torah is one, service of Hashem, commonly translated as prayer, is another, and acts of kindness is the third. So what could we do kindness with? There's so many things we could do kindness with. Money is only one of them. Resources are one of them. But we can all look around our life and our world and see, what else do you have? What do you have in your house that could be shared with others? You know what it might be? It might be a bed. It might be a bedroom. It might be a bedroom. It's like, oh, okay, I have 3 rooms or 4 rooms or 5 rooms, and I'm using however many of them. Boom, right there. That's not costing you much money. That might be as ha'ani imach. That might be, talking more generally than just poverty and poor people, that might be a tool that you have available to use for chesed. So who can you host there? Put yourself on a list somewhere. Somebody knows that, they're looking for a place to stay. You want to jump at that and use your house for good things. Use your pillow, use your blankets, use your bed. There's so many things. Maybe you have food that's extra. Maybe you have chairs and tables, and sometimes people need to borrow that. They're making a celebration of some type, and maybe they need that. We're going to try to give some insights into some inspiration, thinking out of the box, but there's a million ways to do chesed. There are so many ways. And our trouble is we're narrow-minded, and we often associate chesed with the requirement of time and money. And I don't have time and I don't have money, and can I really do that? But everything in your life could be shared. So one way of trying to inspire yourself to think of something you might have to share is to think of, what was a time that you were looking for something, maybe to buy something or to get something, obtain something, find some kind of service, and you had trouble doing it. And you figured it out. Boom, you figured something out, there's probably going to be somebody else looking for that. And you already did all that work and all that research, so now how can you give that back? How do you give that back to your brothers and sisters? Now you shouldn't have to do all that time. I don't know what kind of service you might be looking for. Or maybe you needed to buy something for a one-time purchase, okay? It could be something as simple as you have a cold and you need to buy a humidifier for it. And your cold gets better and you don't use your humidifier. Boom, that's a chesed opportunity right there. You can take that and turn that into what we call a gemach, which really just stands for gemilas chasadim, acts of kindness. And now you can pay dividends for years and years to come. You're going to be generating spiritual reward for yourself and literally building the world with kindness. Okay? The Jewish people are so good at this. It is mind-blowing. And I want to share some examples of what there is out there. The Kollel recently went on a trip to Lakewood, New Jersey, and we saw some of this kindness in action, and I want to share that. And this is something we could all take inspiration from. So first, let's focus on this category of thinking out of the box, okay? So if you look here, you'll see I have a stack of 60 papers. And you're like, oh my gosh, I hope there's a lot of sushi back there, because we're going to be here for a while. But you don't have to take the rest of the day off, because this is not my notes for the class. That's not what it is. The notes are only the 2 pages, okay? So we're going easy. What is the rest of this? This is a directory that one person put together. It is 60 pages long, and it is a list of gemachs. Okay? 60 pages of lists. This is not one gemach per page. There's 20 plus per page. And this is just what one person compiled. So here's an idea for a gemach. I'm going to make a list of gemachs. That's a great idea for a gemach. That's a great way to do kindness, is say, okay, the Jewish people have so much out there. What if you need to find something? How do you know? Where do you live? Where are you? What is there? So somebody put this together, and it's worth it to look through. But I'm just gonna randomly open up and read a couple of times. Let's take some inspiration of what we could do here. Okay, so these are our services. Let's get to, here's the gemach listing. Starts on page 8 over here. Okay. Apartments for people who are visiting the sick. Blood pressure gemach, for blood pressure machines. Okay? A doula gemach. A doula. You can borrow a doula. A doula is a woman who helps a woman in labor to help her have okay, there's a segula. Okay, that's like something people do as like a merit for something, and that involves using esrog jelly. I don't know, for certain things, beyond our topic. There's an esrog jelly gemach. Somebody who knows how to make esrog jelly, and you want to use that. Okay? How about if you need a waterproof cast? You can go to the waterproof cast gemach. There's a million things in the category of, like, let's say you're making a bris, okay? You're making a bris milah. There are things that you need that you're never going to need again unless you have another baby boy. There's a bris pillow gemach. There's a bris pillow used by Rav Chaim Kanievsky gemach. I'm not kidding. I can't even make this up. I could have so much fun. I could go through this all day. Okay? There's a gemach for pidyon ben. When you redeem a firstborn, there's a mitzvah to use certain types of pure silver coins, so you can get a gemach to get those coins. You don't have to run around trying to go to auctions online to try to find it. Cuddles and cradles gemach. Label gemach, for some kind of labels. I don't even know what that is. Let's see what we have here. Mature baby, clothing and different types of things that you might not use again. Nursing cover gemach, for women who are nursing and want to be modest and cover themselves. You don't need to buy that. You can go to gemach for that. Mezuzah gemach, a steam cleaner gemach. A ladies' hat gemach.
These are all
Shaitel gemach. Most of them are in Lakewood, but no, they're in New York area. Maternity clothing gemach. Here, I'm going to start jumping. Hot plate gemach. L'chaim gemach. Oh, that sounds nice. I don't know what's in the l'chaim. There is a napkin ring gemach. Okay, 347-668-9870, based in Brooklyn, New York. If you are making some kind of celebration and you want napkin holders that look beautiful, you can go to this gemach.
Guys, can we get to
there's plenty.
And power tools?
Yeah, probably. I can't go through all of them now, but yeah, probably. Coat rack gemach, lighting strips, linen, microphone, suitcase. And in the category of women and clothing and makeup and wedding, all kinds of things they use for wedding, money, good old money gemach. Clothing, furniture, real silver for pidyon ben, ladies' gowns, bris, benchers, baby strollers, bed rest, bikes, biker cholim equipment, wedding outfits, gowns again. Oh, there's so many gowns. Costumes, formula gemach, wedding shtick gemach. Can I read this whole thing? I really wanted to come here today and just read this whole list and go home. Because I am doing a great job here. Okay, 60 pages of ideas. And I think what these have in common is that somebody went through some kind of difficult situation where they were looking for something. Maybe it wasn't even all that difficult. Like, oh, where do I do that? And then all of a sudden I have something I could use to lend out. So that is message 1 of the day. Look around. It's not even only possessions. You have skills. You have skills you could use. You can repair things. You can coach people. You could, maybe you're even a doctor or something. There's a way you can do kindness with that won't take away from your business. You don't have to give clients free sessions. But what if you made it known that if you're going through something difficult, I'll help you get through that. Or you're going, you have a minor medical thing. We don't have Hatzalah in locally here, but I've got a basic first aid kit. You don't have to run to, CVS and buy something you're only going to use one. I don't know. The ideas are endless. There are so many ways to do that. Es ha'ani imach. What do you have that could be used for kindness? I think that's number one. Let's think about that. When you go home, when you finish this, you're watching this, think about what do you have by you that somebody else could use. And then you could show Hashem, I'm using the resources you gave me well. I was making a simcha and I bought 5 or 10 folding tables and 40 chairs. All you got to do is advertise that. If you're ever looking, come borrow from me. And you're getting endless merit from your belongings, and you're showing Hashem that you are a good investment. Hashem, invest with me. Give me some stuff, because you know I'm going to do a mitzvah with it. Okay, now another angle of this is to try, when we're actually doing an act of chesed, to go all the way, do it properly. And a really important perspective to think about is that we don't do chesed for us. If we're trying to do a chesed and we are focused on it lining up with our feeling of feeling good, then we're being misguided about the chesed. That's not the agenda. The agenda is not, how could I feel good that I checked the box and I did kindness? I want you to know that I am doing kindness for you. That's now about me. That's not about you. And then our whole approach is just going to be guided by what could I do to make myself feel good. Chesed is about the recipient. So we want to try to get into the recipient's shoes, which is not always easy to do. I don't know what the recipient's like. Let's say you're making somebody a meal. I don't know. You're making somebody a meal. They had a baby or something. Let's say that's a common time. Beautiful act of chesed. Okay, that is an amazing act of chesed. Make a new mother a meal. But how are you going to make that meal? How are you going to make that meal? So you could, I don't know what you would eat, but basically what I'm suggesting is trying to put yourselves in their shoes. I don't know, maybe they're like fancy people and they have a 3-course meal, every single evening with beautiful whatever, china and whatever. The ideal way to do that chesed would to do it as close as to what they would have done on their own. If you don't know, I would say try to err on the side of caution and go all out. This is a mitzvah. And of course, we all know that chesed is not just about what you're giving, it's about the feeling you're giving. You're giving another Jew a feeling of love. That's what we're doing. We're showing, I care about you. You're going through something or whatever it is, I care about you. So show that care. Let it radiate through. Let it say like, oh wow, he went the extra mile. I don't know, the example of beautiful chesed of using your, a bedroom if you have to host somebody. You could go the extra mile in such small ways. I don't know, like just putting water bottles on the night table there, or a phone charger, which many people need, or I don't know, if you're in like a shul area, maybe even like a map that shows people how to walk to shul. You could make that, print it off online once, and you just keep printing copies. Like there's so many ways that you can go the extra mile to show them. I mean, imagine you were doing it for your, spouse on their, on some big celebration or something. Like trying to do these little extra things will show the recipient, wow, he really cares. He's not just trying to check the box and say he did it. And I want to give some examples of that, of chesed that we saw on this trip of ours when we went to Lakewood, that shows that is really so incredible, so powerful about going the extra mile like this. Now, the truth is that, what about the flip side? I'm going to go crazy, okay? So something happens and somebody needs a meal and I make a meal and I spend 6 hours preparing that and bringing in beautiful steaks from New York and who knows what. Now, what about the other risk? What about that person saying, hey, that's too much. That's too much. And either saying, okay, you wasted your time, or I feel bad. Now you made me feel bad. I'm the recipient here, and now I feel bad because look how much work you went through. So what do you do with that kind of perspective? So sometimes you can dress it down. And I think that's goal number one. Do the best you can, and then give the impression that you did as little as you can. That's the way to do it. They say, oh, wow, look, you did this. And he says, nah, I had that anyway. Like what? I had the water, I had the this, I had the, like, this is not a big deal. I whipped this up anyway. I was making it anyway. You can find a way to minimize it so that they don't feel as bad. That is important. We don't want to keep those feelings in mind. But we also don't want to let those feelings stop us from going all the way, from doing it in a way that shows that we really care. Like, if that's the worst case scenario, that they feel bad, I think personally that it's better than the flip side, where they get the impression that you just checked the box, that you ran in and you bought them a bag of chips from whatever, and like, here's your meal, and like, I think that's a better of the two sides there. Sometimes the recipient needs to feel that he's a recipient. Sometimes you can't avoid that. I don't know, you have a charity campaign, let's talk about tzedakah. right? You want to try to give charity in a way that makes the person feel as respected and honorable as possible, and not like a victim and a nebuch and a whatever. But at the end of the day, sometimes a person needs to be the recipient of chesed, and that's just the reality. So then, you try to dress it down, and hopefully an organization that's focusing on this will try as best as they can, but they'll still do what they can to go all out. They're not going to be sitting here worrying, oh no, I'm concerned that they're going to think that this is too much. That's not really the mindset. I volunteered for organization when I lived in Jerusalem, and this was a charity organization, and I was helping the poorest of the poor. I was literally bringing food into empty homes. One of my jobs, they called me a shopping boy. Okay, the greatest honor I could possibly have. Shopping boy. I would go to Osher Ad, there's a huge supermarket in Jerusalem, and they'd give me a credit card, and I'd spend sometimes 5,000 shekel on food and bring it to a poor person's house. And by the way, you can't say, I was in the area anyway, getting a few things from the groceries, so I figured I'd give you a few things, and then you bring in 5,000 shekel of groceries. So, sometimes that's the reality. But what I was told is when you go shopping, buy everything, okay? And focus on candy and junk food for the kids, okay? Why? Not because we're trying to hurt their teeth or their health, but because they're poor. They never have extras. Now you want to wow them. You want to show them an enormous amount of food so that they could feel for the first time in their life maybe, wow, I actually have everything. And I do not go through the store looking for the store brands instead of the brand names so I could save a few agurot or a few shekel here and there. No, we want to show them we're going all out for you. Yeah, you need chicken more than you need chips, but we're going to buy you chips so your kids could have that feeling that many other kids have, like, wow, we're like really being taken care of. I was told that a goal to have is that you bring in enough groceries that they don't have the storage space to put it. Okay, that's a goal. And trust me, that was so easy to do. I was often going to the tiniest apartments you've ever seen in your life. It wasn't a big deal, but that's a matter of just showing them that you went that extra way. You went that extra mile. You show them that love. So an organization we had visited, this was a previous year, but I actually have a sister who works there. It's called Biker Cholim in Lakewood. So Biker Cholim is helping with resources for people who are going through some kind of illness. So they help advocate for, in the hospitals and to try to get people good doctors and treatment plans and whatever. That's the medical side of it. But they also realize, who else is suffering when somebody's going through a tragic sickness? The family. The family. And it might not be as bad to be taking care of somebody who has a terrible disease rather than having the disease, but they're human beings too. And they also should be given some love. And they need a lot of it. Their whole day is focused on taking care of somebody who's sick. Who's taking care of them? Biker Cholim is taking care of them. Giving them meals, giving them place to stay, giving them transportation to and from the hospitals. They have this huge kitchen where people are making food for them and for other people as well. So I called my sister yesterday and I said, look, I know a lot about what you do. I've seen the numbers. I'm on their campaign list. I get all their stats. Incredible. Millions of this and thousands of this. Tell me two things that show that they go the extra mile, that you would never imagine they would do, and that they do, so that I could share this with you guys here. Here's the two things she said, okay? Number one, the apartments or houses that they have for chesed, for the family members of the sick people, are designed by high-end interior designers. They bring them in, and they say, make this beautiful. And they even have apartments and rooms within houses that have themes, all kinds of themes and artwork and beautiful furniture. Why in the world do you need to do that? The chesed is that a person who's dedicating his whole life to helping his family member who's sick has a place to crash at night. This is not a hotel, it's not a vacation. But they said it's important that they feel the contrast from the dry, dull, cold hospital to the place that they're sleeping. At the end of the day, they're not going back to a big white room with a bed and a night table in the middle. They're going to something that makes them feel loved. You know how much money goes into that? A lot of money goes into that. That's for sure. What was number two? This is incredible. They have a huge commercial kitchen where they're whipping up food all day, every day, thousands of meals. They let, in this kitchen and in anywhere in their organization, anybody volunteer if they want to do a mitzvah and help. even if the volunteer will not be helping in the bottom line of the chesed that they're doing. Example, you have somebody who's not very capable. I don't know, maybe they themselves are very frail or elderly or whatever, or just not very good at this stuff, and they say, I want to do a mitzvah of chesed. You come in here and you make that chicken. I don't know, maybe you're going to ruin the chicken. We're going to throw it out after you. I'm not really sure what's going to happen. But I'm sure they try to, work with it as best as possible. But even somebody who's not really helping, if it makes them feel that they're helping, that's a mitzvah as well. Another example is they have like at-risk boys, like teenagers, who are struggling, they're not doing well in yeshiva or whatever it is. You come help us. You drive our vans, you drive our trucks, we'll make you feel good, we'll give you your walkie-talkies, and you'll be a coordinator, and you'll help with all this, and you're giving them a huge boost, and they could be quite the pain to deal with. But this is about chesed. So who else are we doing chesed for? It's not like, I'm so laser focused on this chesed that I need, elitist chesed. It's only for the people who can do it best. You guys will do it best. You come here, you're not good enough. We need to do it the best. But what about them? So they're doing chesed for all kinds of people as a side job of the chesed they're doing for the sick people. Okay, isn't that incredible? Yeah. So another example, we went to Hatzalah. Okay, we went to Hatzalah. This was a couple weeks ago. And I'll give you two examples from them as well. Hatzalah, the entire organization is there to beat the local EMT's response time by a few minutes, okay? I mean, sometimes maybe it's more than that, hopefully not. But, maybe your average EMT will have a response time of 7 minutes or something. They have usually less than 2 minutes, often less than 1 minute, actually. So, okay, but that I understand because we're dealing with life and death. So, of course, every single minute literally makes a difference. So they invest millions of dollars in state-of-the-art equipment. They're going on thousands and thousands of calls, and they're helping save lives. And they go the extra mile as well. It's not just about transporting the patient to the hospital. What happens after that? Are they being taken care of? They're not charged, et cetera, et cetera. All right, so here's two examples that just blew my mind, okay? So both relate to the same thing. It stuck out of my mind when the guy told us, and that is the ambulance ride. Okay, I don't know, who's listening or watching that has been in the back of an ambulance. It's not a fun ride to be riding on a stretcher in the back of an ambulance, and you have a catch-22. You need to get that patient to the hospital as soon as you possibly can, but you also don't want to kill the patient on the way or hurt the patient on the way. You don't want somebody who's dealing with some kind of terrible injury or whatever to be bouncing around over potholes while the ambulance driver is doing a chesed of bringing him there as fast as he can at 100 miles an hour down the highway. Yeah, so what do you do about that? So they need to balance that. That's why an ambulance does not want to drive as fast as they possibly can. They need to balance these two parts here. So what does Hatzalah do? Here's number one. Number one, every ambulance driver, as part of their training, needs to lie on the stretcher and be bounced to the highway. Okay? I've never heard of an ambulance corps doing this. You're going to be a driver. We're going to tie you up and put you there. And we're going to drive you 40 minutes to whatever hospital or a close one or a far one. We're going to take you down, I don't know, this was New Jersey roads, which have quite an amount of potholes in it. And you should know how that feels, okay? And number two is they spend tens of thousands of dollars to put a extra shock system on the bottom of this whole truck so that the shocks of the whole ambulance are way, way better than your average ambulance, your average city ambulance. You know what that comes at the expense of? Okay, you might ask, why doesn't the city do that also? Hopefully they're not nasty people. The answer is because an ambulance has a lot of weight on it as it is, and the gas tank goes really, really quickly on such a powerful truck. It's powered by a F450 or something or whatever it is, or it's custom built, and the gas goes really quickly. So your local ambulance will put extra gas tanks under the truck so they don't have to fill it up as often. Hatzalah uses that ability of space and weight, does not put an extra gas tank, and puts that shock system in there. And what that means is they have an entire staff of volunteers who are on call to constantly fill up that ambulance with gas. In 2 trips to the hospital, it needs to be filled up with gas very often. okay? But it's worth having volunteers all year round to drop what they're doing between calls and take it to fill up gas, just so that patient doesn't get bounced around as much, right? That blew my mind. There's so many little things, paying attention to detail. There's an organization I also was involved with a little bit. Now I help them legally. I'm actually their like vice president because I helped like in the beginning, and I don't know, they needed an American because it's a charity that's also registered in America. So I don't actually do anything. I just get their paperwork every once in a while. But this is amazing. This is called quality of life. In Hebrew, eichut hachayim, quality of life. And what they have is a few dozen handymen who are willing to dedicate their time to help fix-ups in houses. There are thousands or probably tens of thousands of homes in Israel where people are poor, and you have the tiniest things. You have a cabinet handle that broke. You have a little drawer. You have a leak in your sink. You have all kinds of tiny, tiny little things. You want to send somebody out here, you know what you'll pay. You'll pay $100 for the call or whatever, plus what, and these people don't have the money for that. They come in here, and in a few hours, they fix the house from beginning to end. Everything is tightened and replaced, and different light bulb covers and light bulbs, and maybe even a little painting and like little things, and the house is like a whole little house, so that poor person doesn't have to feel as poor as he actually is. The head of this organization actually told me, this is the craziest thing he's told me. I mean, he's facilitating the tzedakah of many millions of dollars a year in Jerusalem and another place in Israel as well. And he once brought me over, he said, Menashe, when I die, I want to show you what I want to be buried with. I'm like, okay, this is a visionary right here. What does he want to be buried with? Of all that he does. And he brings me to a closet and he gives me a little rubber ring. He holds this and he says, this is what I want to be buried with. And I said, what the heck is that? So you know what that is? This is a little piece of rubber that you put under a sink that's leaking that stops the leak. And this shows what I do. You know how much it costs? A few aguro, okay, which is a few cents. This symbolizes what we do. It's not just the big things, it's the every attention to detail. And you could have a poor person who literally doesn't know how to fix a sink, and he's spending hundreds of shekel a year or a month just on the water bill because of that leak. And it's like these little things that we could do. So that's the message I want to share, the inspiration I've learned from these organizations. I hope we could all figure out how we can bring this into our lives and our chesed, and remember that it's not about checking a box. It's about showing the love. Show the love the way you would want to receive it and way more, because this is a mitzvah and this is our brothers and sisters. I want to share one story that I guarantee will blow your mind, okay? Or your money back. This is unbelievable. What this shows is two things. First of all, it shows what one act of kindness can do to you. How one act of kindness could come back to you. Forget the recipient and the mitzvah, but you never know by doing something, and that thing could be a smile, it could be a little help, you could be helping somebody spiritually. There's so many ways to do chesed. Remember, don't be closed-minded, even to what I said today, and 60 pages of lists. You still want to stay open-minded in what you have that other people could benefit from. And it shows how this could go back to you, but also about hashgacha, about how Hashem runs our world. Okay? Unbelievable story. I heard this from Rabbi Yoel Gold. There's a girl in Israel, in Jerusalem. She's American. She's living in Israel. Her name is Chana. She's not feeling well one day. She lives in Har Nof, a neighborhood in Jerusalem. She gets a phone call from a friend in Haifa, which is in the north of Israel. And this friend is a journalist, and he's on a mission, and he or she, I don't know, needs to have for their article or something a picture of the Temple Mount in Jerusalem, the Har HaBayis, from a very particular angle. And the way you could get that picture is from Mount Olives, Har HaZesim, which is like a hill overlooking the Temple Mount. Can you please take a bus to Har HaZesim and take this picture for me? Okay, what a friend. Sure, I'll do that. Now, Har HaZesim is not in the greatest neighborhood in Jerusalem. It's behind the Temple Mount, and it's in eastern part of Jerusalem, which is all Arab neighborhoods. It's not the safest place, but It's a place that a lot of people go to because it's a Jewish cemetery. So, it's like kind of a gray area. People will go anyway, but there's been incidents there. So in order to get there, she needed to take a bus from Shar Shechem. And that's also in East Jerusalem. Shar Shechem, if you're not familiar, is part of East Jerusalem. It's a totally Arab part of the city, but many Jews also will cut through it to go to the Kotel, which is not necessarily advised. There's been many terrorist attacks there, but there's a lot of police and whatever. So that's an area that's only a 1 minute walk from the kind of border, the highway where the Jewish parts of the city are. From there, she could catch a bus. She takes a bus to there, and she's really not feeling well. It's really like the amount she's giving for this picture, to take this picture for the friend. So she's really tired. Her head is pounding. She's a little nauseous. She's waiting for the bus. A bus pulls up. It's blue and white. What's blue and white? The colors of the Israeli flag, the national colors of Israel. So she's like, okay, this must be the bus. It says Har Zaysim on the bus stop sign. She wasn't really thinking. She gets on the bus. It was not the bus for Har Zaysim. It was an Arab bus, which was using blue and white for probably totally coincidence. And she gets on the bus, and it's a 5-minute drive, and she falls asleep because she's so not feeling well, and she wakes up 25 minutes later. And she doesn't know where she is. She just knows that she's been sleeping, so she probably missed her stop. So she gets off the bus, okay? By coincidence, of all nights, to be a Jewish girl alone, deep in East Jerusalem, it's the first night of Ramadan, okay? Where it's an extra mitzvah to kill Jews. Sorry for saying it so crudely. It's a bad time to be in an Arab place. Now, if you're not familiar with the nature of East Jerusalem, a Jew who walks in there alone will often not come out alive. And if yes, it's by the good grace of Hashem. These are our peace partners in Jerusalem. You go into their neighborhood, and you might not walk out. And a Jewish girl is there. So she starts walking, and the streets are empty because it was evening, and all the Arabs are breaking their fast inside. So she looks, and right away she starts seeing all the posters are all in Arabic, and now she realizes something's off. And you know what the posters were? She couldn't read Arabic, but she saw the pictures. The pictures were pictures of terrorists, and they were celebrating the terrorists. Okay, contrast that to the other side of the city in the Jewish neighborhoods, where unfortunately, especially even terribly, tragically right now, there's posters all over the city about the funerals of 2 children who were killed this past week, 6 and 8 years old in a terrorist attack. So that's what they're doing in the other side, in the Arab side of the city. What does she do? Takes out her phone. It's dead. Okay, this is like the worst nightmare. This is like a movie script right here. So what does she do? Step number 2, she starts saying Tehillim. She starts praying. She starts praying to Hashem. So she's looking around. She's like, hey, what do I do here? She looks for a house that looks less murdery. Is that a word? Threatening? I don't know. She looks at a house that's not covered in these posters, basically. And before she knocks on the door, she prepares her story. Okay? She needs a story. She cannot show up here as a Jewish girl. So here's her story. She's from UCLA. She's American. She doesn't speak Hebrew. And she's writing an article. She's a pro-Palestinian activist. And she's trying to document the terrible injustices that the Palestinians have. And she's there to, stand up for the Palestinian people. That's her story. She makes up a name that she's going to have. She knocks on the door. The door opens. A woman takes a look at her. She's wearing the whole dress, takes one look at her, and says, Chana!
Oh my God.
Which is her name. And she's like, Chana, thank you so much for coming. Come inside. Takes her inside, brings her to the kitchen where all the extended family is breaking their Ramadan fast, and shows them on the fridge a card that Chana had written this lady. And it was a thank you card. And what happened here? What in the world is going on here? A few weeks or maybe even months prior, she's volunteering for Aish, the organization Aish in Jerusalem. And they're having a big outreach event. They're an outreach organization. So they're having not just an event, like a multi-day, some kind of program. So she volunteered for them. And when she started volunteering, she said, I'm going to do this volunteer work all the way. I'm not just going to do what I need to do. I'm going to do the extra mile. You know what I'm going to do? I am going to meet every single person who's working there, and I'm going to make sure to thank them for their work, and even more than that. So it's I think it was a 10-day program. The last day, she was given coffee by this Arab woman. Oh, hey, what's your name? I haven't seen you. It's like, yeah, I just got the job now, whatever. I don't know, I have family, other family members that are there. She's an Arab woman from East Jerusalem who's being employed, and she gives her coffee, and she says, okay, thank you so much. Your name, what's your address, whatever, and mailed her a thank you card for pouring her a cup of coffee. And now she's there, of all houses to knock on in East Jerusalem. She opens it up, Chana, thank you for coming to visit me, because she thought that she came to visit her. She didn't think that anything else. She totally, this kind Jewish woman who wrote me a letter, cared about my existence, wrote me a letter, she brought him in, and all the people at the table, a whole bunch of them also worked. There was like a family job over there in Aish. They're like, oh, you're here, so good to see you, whatever. And they literally said to her, thank you so much for coming to visit me. And what did she say? Yeah, of course, coming to visit you. Yeah, I had a few minutes. I figured I'd take a bus down here. And she's like, okay, yeah. And they had a nice visit. They were there for a little bit of time. And then she's like, okay, can you show me where the bus stop is to get back to the other part of Jerusalem? They're like, there are no buses from here to that part of Jerusalem. That's not a route. That's not a bus route. Here, my uncle will drive you back. So she gets in the car. Uncle drives to the military checkpoint. The soldiers look in the car, and they're like, Kol Beseder? Is everything, what in the world is happening? This Arab man is bringing a single Jewish girl, to the checkpoint to be, and she's like, yeah, all is good here. This is, I'm just visiting my friends, and that's it. And she made it back.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy? Isn't that mind-blowing? Unbelievable. So, it was the thank you note. So yeah, that's what I'm saying. There's two takeaways here. Of course, the divine providence from Hashem, the hashkacha, is crazy. Hashem is the one who orchestrated this. That, no doubt, the chances of this are not to be. You can't even imagine them. You better look at the Powerball. But also her act of kindness. Look how that came back to her. Look how she planted a seed. Did a mitzvah that literally saved her life. Really unbelievable. Okay, so that's what I want to share today. And I want to end off, if we're able to, this is still here. I want to play for you a song that really touched me, that I thought is such a powerful song. And the words are so simple. It's Yiddish, so I'll translate it. Very simple. Okay, Olam Chesed Yibane. That's our title here. Build a world of kindness. And Joey Newcomb's favorite word is Heilige, which means holy. So he says, Heilige Klal, he's referencing different organizations that do chesed. And the four that he gives a shout out to, which are only here to represent others, you'll see in the beginning, he flashes the logos of 100 organizations, is Hatzalah, that helps with medical, Mesaskim, which helps dealing with honoring the dead, Jews who died, to treat their body and bury them in a respectful way. Tomchei Shabbos helps Jews to pay for Shabbos bills, which are very expensive, and for people who can't afford that. And Bikur Cholam, which we're talking about now, visiting the sick. So that's all he's saying, is just saying, Heilige Hatzalah Yidden, holy Hatzalah Jews, holy Chaver, Mesaskim Jews, what you do for Klal Yisrael, for the Jewish people, who's going to pay us back? Ultimately, Hashem's going to pay us back. All right, so let's just give a listen here.
Build the world with chesed yiboneh. Heilige Atzala Yidin, Heilige Atzala Yidin. What you do for Klal Yisrael, Hashem will pay you back. Heilige Misaskim Yidin, Heilige Misaskim Yidin. What you do for Klal Yisrael, Hashem will pay you back. Heilige Toimche Shabbos, Heilige Toimche Shabbos. What you do for Klal Yisrael, Hashem will pay you back. Heilige Biker Choilen, Heilige Biker Choilen. What you do for Klal Yisrael, Hashem will pay you back. Olam Chesed Yibonem, Chesed Chesed Heilige Klal Yisrael, Heilige Klal Yisrael. What we do for each other, Hashem will pay us back. Heilige Klal Yisrael, Heilige Klal Yisrael. What we do for each other, Hashem will pay us back. Heilige, 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 Heilige Klal Yisrael. Oh, what we do for each other, Hashem will pay us back. Heilige Klal Yisrael. What we do for each other, Hashem will pay us back.